Jason McLaren with the Leadership Loading Podcast with my guest today, Darran Bruce with IRL. And when I looked that up to research this, I thought, obviously that means in real life, right? But it's actually International Radical Life Streamers. And he's got some other things going on over there. We'll talk about that as we get into all the details here. But Darran, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me, Jason.
So yeah, let's start off with your background and what you're doing over there and how you got to where you're at today.
Yeah, IRLS, or International Radical Life Streamers, was created to form a group of like-minded people in the podcasting live streaming world. We found a need that there was a group in the area, but they weren't kind of with the pizzazz and bang you would want of a meetup group. So we kind of started that, and that was based upon meeting up with professionals through a television or online series that I do called the DJ Sessions, where we feature international and national world-renowned DJs and local DJs. And we're a Twitch featured partner with that series, one of the first Twitch featured partners series, DJ show series, and also a podcast series. Kind of the whole backbone support of the DJ Sessions is a podcast, which I've been doing for about 17 years now.
Definitely. We were talking about that before recording, like, you know, Go Heroes started the podcast a couple of years ago, right before COVID, and we kind of stalled out during COVID, but we were just trying to get some kind of outreach because it's really difficult for us to meet first responders and meet heroes, as we call them, that need our services. And so that's kind of why we started this. And that kind of plays into what you guys are doing over there. You know, you get these, in your case, a lot of people are digital, so they're online a lot. But in our case, our mindset is kind of introverted. Obviously, when we're in a team concept, we're out there and we're doing our thing. But a lot of times when we're not that, you know, at work, we want to be by ourselves. And so we don't go to these social events usually. And it could be either you just don't like that, or you have some kind of PTSD or traumatic brain injury that keeps you from enjoying that. And so this is kind of a pretty interesting concept you guys got going.
Thank you. Yeah. That was one of the reasons why we started doing the DJ Sessions, was for people who may not be able to make it to the nightclub, maybe don't know much about the artist or the guest, and they could sit back, well, literally from anywhere in the world, and tap into an episode and watch local DJs and or, you know, celebrity DJs be interviewed and streamed live and basically on the go now with mobile devices. So we kind of wanted to eliminate that little bit of FOMO that people might have, and not just be a local show, because we started out in broadcast television, and that, you know, is only limited to your market that you're in. But once we went to podcasting in 2005 and took our broadcast television show there and had some successes with that, I just realized I wasn't ever going to go back to broadcast television again. And then, of course, as technology moved forward, we started doing live streaming, and kind of the rest is history. But again, our main focus is live streaming. I like the interactivity that you can have being in the chat room. People can watch it from their mobile devices or their computers, obviously. But then the podcast aspect, where people, if they miss the live stream, they can still subscribe to it and get the episodes downloaded right to their mobile device or computer.
Definitely. And I think with the integration of Twitch and all that, with the live streaming, you're there, but you're not there, and you're able to, like you said, not miss out on anything. Mm-hmm. And so you've got that, you've got the mobile billboards and your other business. So how many do you have total businesses?
Well, technically 4. We just expanded iAlternative Media, which is the out-of-home advertising business, down into Phoenix, Arizona. So we're looking at coming really strong into that market because it's wide open. Actually, the mobile billboard market is pretty wide open in most markets, and it's a great avenue for people if they're looking to retire or looking to shift into business. It can be a little costly to get into, but you know, once you get in there, once you start getting some clients in the presence of people seeing what's going on, you really start seeing results with advertising. I mean, traditional media, you look at billboards, buses, you know, bus stops, you know, things that we're desensitized to that now. It's just been there for 100+ years. Whereas you take a truck and you put some flat screen TVs or LED panels on it, you put a sound system on it, which we have, that you can hear from literally 4 city blocks away, and everyone sees what's on the side of the truck. So we also take that and use it for our show, the DJ Sessions, and we put DJs in the back of the truck as we drive around and let people come back in like a party bus and party as well. So it's kind of mixing of the two businesses, which I like. And then, of course, International Radical Live Streamers. that helps kind of network within the podcaster network group, local group. We go out and do some fun events and have some fun times and share tips and tricks.
So if somebody was interested, say, they're military or veteran or first responder, and they're like, hey, I'm going to get out of this and start a DJ company or start an online media, what would be the first step? What do they need to start first and get into?
That would be two separate things. But the first thing to look at would be, I think, if I took it from the point of podcast, and I've been asked this question a number of times, is what should my budget be to start a podcast, start a show? And I said, what do you got in your pocket right now? It's as simple as literally doing it from your phone or your laptop. Every laptop usually has a camera built into it. Our mobile devices have a built into it. You can get a camera for $99 if your webcam is really poor. A good internet connection. Make sure you have good hard-lined internet connection. Don't do Wi-Fi. But really, you can get a $50 LED light, a $50 lavalier mic, and lighting and audio. When I worked for Apple, a lot of people would come in and they want to buy a $2,500 MacBook Pro because they had a $4,000 camera, and they go, okay, and I want to buy this training, and I want to make movies, and I'm going to look awesome. And I go, okay, so you just spent $5,000-$6,000 on camera and computer. How much did you spend on lighting? Did you buy a tripod? Did you buy a microphone? Or they'd come in and they'd say, oh, I bought this computer, I bought Final Cut Pro, and I bought this camera, and I want you to train me to make my footage look awesome. And I go, look, you can't take a pile and make it into a brick of gold because you didn't set it up right in pre-production. And I'd say, hey, go out here, go to B&H or wherever it is, and buy a decent lighting kit. And back when I was doing this, LEDs were not common on the market. So you're looking at getting total lights, and you got 750 watts of light just shining in on you and everything. Nowadays, you can get a decent, the panels I'm using in my studio, I think I paid $50 for. They're adjustable. I can do CTO or color temperature orange or go white depending on the lighting conditions. They're dimmable. They're battery packed as well. And you're ready to go.
That's funny.
And then just know your content. That's the other part, is know your content. Research your content. Find out something you're passionate about. Don't try to copycat other people's stuff, or like, oh, they're talking about Charles Manson, so I'm going to talk about Charles Manson, or they're talking about mail delivery service, so I'm going to talk about mail delivery service. Find a niche, and then research that niche, and then find other industry professionals within that niche to start talking to, because talking to the camera yourself is one thing, and your subject matter is great, but it's always great to have guests on the show.
Well, yeah, everything you just mentioned there is what we did here at the podcast, starting off with guests and then starting off with cheapo stuff. And then we've slowly been upgrading. And so
I tell people, and if you get that equipment, use it till it breaks, then buy it again, use it till it breaks, and then see if you really like doing this and you want to really upgrade. I mean, getting a nice green screen is cool. I just bought my first, I'm actually anti-green screen, just from the productions of the DJ session shows, because we did the green screen thing 12 years ago. We had all the fun and the visuals in the back, and it looked cool and it was fun, and everyone's like, eh. But nowadays it's just going to come in. I just bought a green screen that I have up behind me now, $80 at my local camera store, set it up on 2 light stands. And, Mackey's one of our sponsors, so we get nice gifts from time to time. But you don't need a $300 mic to do a podcast. Your audience, if you got, 5 people listening, that's great. You got 10 people listening, that's great. One thing I can say that's huge, though, is as these people are subscribing, find a way to capture their email addresses and start a monthly newsletter. Something you can remind them, hey, episode's out. Hey, got something, or a Patreon. That can really help out as well. And just dial it in. But it takes time to get all this dialed in. I've been doing this for 13 years, and we're still dialing in our brand to now take it international. Even after we've done 20, I think I just counted today, 2,325 episodes.
Definitely. And love what you're talking about. We talked before we started recording about going to the video podcasts, which are fairly new, and we haven't pushed those out yet. We've been doing the YouTube, but and then our background here, we record in 2 different spots, so we keep kind of universal background. That way it doesn't change every episode. You're like, well, he was here this time. Want to keep it streamlined so people aren't worried about what's in the background and what we're talking about. So definitely learning all that as we go.
Yeah, and unless I'm on location, then I'm green screen. Like I fly to Phoenix this weekend, and I'm going to be poolside down there doing some stuff. And I'm going to be like, you know what? It's palm trees and blue sky with the pool behind me now. I don't want the DJ session. Or we're going to Amsterdam later this year for a huge international music conference. We're going to be on the street. I don't have time to set up a green screen and do all that. It's like, but I want that on the street in reality, flavor though, is what I'm looking for. But yeah, just having a nice, simple backdrop, and you don't got to go out expensive. You could buy get a black sheet and hang up the black sheet behind you. Just don't make it look like your living room. Or, I mean, you can start out if you want to, that's great. But with the, when you go to video podcasts, you got to kind of take those elements in. But if it is just an audio podcast, just getting a really decent mic is going to be key. And learning the basics of, even if you're on a Mac, learning GarageBand. If you're on a PC, I think Audacity, is that one of the free ones? I think that's still around. That's a really basic, and there's tons of tutorials and tips on YouTube and all that are out there. One of the difficult things about doing a video podcast that a lot of people find difficult is to find out where to host their video podcast, because there are some services out there, but they're more geared towards audio hosting, not video hosting right now. And while they're not a sponsor of our show, but I use them. They've been really friendly to us and really kind and really helpful. I was turned on to a company called Podbean a few years ago, 2018, when I had to shift of about 700 gigabytes of data videos from GoDaddy servers over to a new hosting service. And I was like, because GoDaddy slapped us on the hand for doing about 120 terabytes of data a month on a $15 a month hosting account. Yeah, that was like the sixth time they kind of said, nope, can't do this anymore. But Podbean offers a great plan, $40 a month, unlimited hosting, video podcast package, which is just phenomenal. The max size of a video podcast can only be 3 gigabytes, but with compression technology now, I can get an hour down to about 750 megabytes. And that's just using standard settings in Final Cut Pro when I export. And Windows and Adobe will have the same compression settings as well. And if you really need to, you can go get Handbrake, compress that down even further if you want to. It's a free program, pretty awesome one that I've used in the past. But upload it to Podbean, and then Podbean will send it to Apple, you can even actually send videos directly in Podbean when you publish to YouTube once a day. But they're pretty much connected with everything on the back end. It's a really great tool that I use. It actually is one of the backbone supports of what we do at the DJ sessions.
That sounds interesting. We'll have to look at that here, because that's one of our, streamlining everything is what we're trying to work on. So like you said, you've been doing it for 15, 17 years, or we're in year 2 now. So
one of the first video podcasts in the iTunes music store when they launched the video podcast section, which was about 2 or 3 weeks after they launched the video iPod, and saw some success there. We debuted at number 58 in the iTunes store. And I'm sorry, number 48 in the iTunes store, and rose to position number 23. And at one point, we were doing 300,000 downloads a week, and everyone else in there was doing massive downloads a week too, because none of the broadcast shows had come out yet because they couldn't announce them and all the deals weren't locked in. And so we're asking everyone, how do we monetize this? That is the biggest one, is how do you monetize a podcast? And it's very difficult because you don't get the same thing like broadcast television, what are called Nielsen ratings, or radio Arbitron ratings. So, don't do it for the money. If you're in it for the money, unless you've got some really top-notch guests, and you've got a really good distribution platform and a great social media campaign and all that fun stuff, and a team of people doing this, then you're like Gary Vaynerchuk or Joe Rogan. Even they didn't start out that way. I think Gary started out with a wine show, just talking about bottles of wine, something like that. And here's what I got this week. And eventually grew the show up. And Joe, they didn't start out, all fancy studio. But the podcast world is kind of still a wild, wild west environment, where it's kind of one of those last bastion of where you can freely talk about what you want to talk about and get it out there. And there's going to be, if you're interested in something, somebody else is going to be interested in it. You just got to find them, and that's kind of how your podcast will grow. But, even if you have 10,000 people watching it, at that point, or even 1,000 people, set up the Patreon, ask them for that $1 a month or $2 a month, or, special episode. You'll get this episode before other people get this episode, 2 days before it releases. And just those donations. I mean, you start getting, $2 a month from 1,000 people, that's $2,000 a month. And that can start leading to buy new gear. That can lead to making a website, helping your social media presence grow, all that kind of fun stuff. So slowly but surely take it there. And I used to tell people in the beginning, if you're really serious about this, when you hit 100 episodes, if you're doing one episode per week, but you mean they're in this for about 2 years, you're going to break over that threshold, but if you get 15 episodes in, you're like, this isn't for me, or I'm not seeing the rewards. I'm not getting thousands of downloads and my stuff is awesome. I'm like, that's not how this works. It takes time. So just be patient with it and hone in and research and know your subject matter.
Definitely. And so with all those businesses, you got to practice leadership, right? So what's your one leadership mantra or leadership skill that you like to focus on?
I think the biggest thing for me, and I'm going to finally one day publish a coffee table book on this. It's in the works, and it's still, problem is it's always ongoing. It's my to-do lists. If I didn't have my to-do lists, I would get so burnt out and so lost. And it's everything from, whether it's making a major call to a record label or a celebrity, or making sure I'm saying upload my shows, edit my shows, or even do laundry, shave, do the dishes, whatever goes on that to-do list. And I can look at that to-do list because over the years I've burnt out so many times, like three or four times. I've literally burnt out where I didn't want to pick up a camera. I didn't want to do anything. I didn't want to edit a show. I didn't want to go out. And now that I have my to-do list and the timing that I have, I wake up in the morning, it's 9 o'clock. I'm doing my stuff. About 5 or 6 o'clock, if it's on the to-do list or it's coming out of my mind, I put it on the to-do list. I'll save it for tomorrow. Burning that midnight oil and going into the late night hours. I mean, I still do it from time to time, but I like it. And also, we got these phones. If an idea pops up, I drop it on my phone. If it's after hours, or if it's just an idea, I'm sitting here talking to you, I'm like, oh yeah. I wouldn't do it in the middle of a podcast, but write that idea down and keep it. Same idea as keeping a notepad and pen next to your bed. Don't sleep with your mobile device next to your bed. Put your mobile device out in the living room, get some rest, and if you do have an idea, grab that pen and paper and make that to-do list by the bed so you remember it, because you fall asleep, you're going to wake up, you're not going to remember it. So to-do lists are probably my number one key thing. And I literally have stacks of to-do lists going back for years, and I can decode them. I know what the words on them mean. Somebody look at me, what does this mean? What does this mean? But I can actually keyword each one of those and go, I know exactly what that was. And that keyword could be something that's major $100,000 deal, but I said, call drink manufacturer right next to do laundry. So to-do list, I think, are something that helps keep me, and I think keeps everyone organized in their pathway.
All right. But Darran, how can the listeners get a hold of you and find you?
Yeah, I would say first and foremost, go to our website, thedjsessions.com. All of our socials are there at thedjsessions.com. We're constantly publishing new stories, new interviews. If you're into electronic music and all that, we've actually expanded our base of content to now not just include DJs and producers and music guests, music sets, and our own content, but we've opened it up to the entire electronic music world. So we want to talk with all industry professionals, lighting designers, producers, promoters, managers, record labels, you name it. If you're in the electronic music industry, we want to talk to you. And if you're interested in the electronic music industry, we want to become that place that you come to and go, I read this story here. Let me share that on social media. So thedjsessions.com, and all of our socials are there.
Awesome. We'll put those links in the show notes below.
Thank you.
Well, thanks, Darran. Thanks for coming on the show today.
Absolutely, Jason. It was a pleasure.
There are thousands of leadership and management podcasts to choose from. We're glad you chose the Leadership Loading Podcast, a Go Heroes production. If you'd like to support Go Heroes Inc., visit www.goheroes.org. And with that, it's time to wrap up today's show. Thank you so much for listening. We sincerely hope you liked it. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this podcast with your family and friends. Let's all grow together. Thanks for listening to the Leadership Loading Podcast. Leadership inspired.